Welcome, friends,
to the How-To Heretic.
I'm Uncle Mark.
And I'm Uncle Dan.
And I am Uncle Doug.
And this is your user's guide to life on the outside.
That's right. Leaving religion is the first step into a larger, better world.
But it can also be a scary world. Things work differently now.
Never fear. That's why we're here.
We're your audio uncles. And with help from good friends and experts in all sorts of fields,
we're going to share the stories and seek the knowledge to build a great life.
After all, you only get the one that we know of, so you better make the most.
Yippee! Well, guys.
Hello.
Well, hello.
Here we are again, installment number 170 of this one of our own heavens we've somehow found ourselves in. Making this podcast as the world plummets into the sun.
How did it happen? How did this podcast have to be in the time of Donald Trump? But look, we've cleared several hurdles toward getting Trump out. So while I don't feel totally clear in the clear yet, that's kind of cool.
I feel like we've cleared the hurdles and all we have left is the minefield.
Exactly.
Now we just have the military coup to get through, and we're going to be fine. You know what I mean?
After the minefield, there's the ninja challenge, and then
the Kraken,
and then all we have to do is sail 3 oceans away.
Did you see one of the idiot lawyers today entered a lawsuit in some court somewhere? I couldn't see where. And on the last page, when you do one of those filings, you put under the penalty of perjury, but he misspelled it. And he said under plenty of perjury. Legal Twitter is in heaven right now. They're having so much fun with it. So,
oh gosh,
what a show! A show of shows we have this week, fellas.
Right. Oh yeah, we got stuff coming up. I'm gonna start us off with I'm gonna get us all a little bit fucked up.
Yeah, well, good.
Right.
And then Doug, you're gonna do something else.
I'm going to take a beloved holiday tradition and take a big old messy dump on it.
Sweet. And anytime Doug takes a dump on a holiday tradition, I get my wings.
And yeah, exactly.
And then I'm gonna talk about how the once very singular edifice of Mormonism is starting to look like the Bedlam Asylum, and I'm not sure what to make of it. So join us, Dan. We're going to be joining you and Frank on New Year's Eve.
Yeah, it's gonna be there. So Frank and I Thank God I'm Atheist are having a shindig. Everybody's invited. It's gonna be it's basically a live stream with a lot of your favorite podcasters piping in, and a lot of and some special guests that we're working on. I'm not gonna say who because they're not totally solid yet. But I'm pretty sure Barack Obama's coming on. It's not solid. We can't say that.
Well, he and I are going to the Kings game that night, so
right there is that.
Yeah.
There is that.
Right.
So if you want to be a part of it, just like we three are, you can go to the Thank God I'm Atheist page and look for updates. I think we're going to have a sign up sheet that then we'll send you all of the info through email. So definitely go to there and it's just going to be a good time. And since nobody's going out, there's no parties. Don't go to a party.
Please don't go to a party.
Just join us and we'll all have a really good time, and that'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah. And as soon as these guys get their shit together, which is kind of in the maybe category, we'll post about it on Twitter, etc. And don't forget, we got our YouTube page, the unofficial How to Heretic Hangout that our friend Joe runs. You can go there and yell at other people all the time. It's fine. And we got our
tell
merch.
them how stupid you think we are and have a fun discussion about it.
And we got our merch. You can always get some stuff for ring in the new year. Make your resolution more How to Heretic merch.
Yes.
And with that, let us resolve to do a show.
Woohoo!
You know, Uncle Doug.
Hello.
I like the nightlife.
That's
I like the boogie.
You are known where you are known
on
as
the disco.
Yep.
I don't know what that word even is, but
yeah, nobody does.
Nobody does.
By the time you're at that word, you're dancing too hard to listen to lyrics.
You're something's up and you're having a great time. and it's 1978.
Well, and the disco is a place of where I feel the spirit. And by which I mean the 1970s disco, where I was never allowed to go, but wish that I could go.
Are you talking about disco the music or the discotheque, the place
where
you
the
dance
discotheque?
To music? Thank you.
I guess I could still go to a discotheque if I were in Berlin or something.
Yeah, that's where I go to like, when I really got to work something out. I just hit the floor, man. I just leave it all there. Like Kevin Bacon when he does his solo in Footloose.
Oh yeah,
in
the
barn. It's like that's me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, with exactly those dance moves too.
Yeah, it's kind of not every discotheque is equipped for that, but
right. You got to cover a lot of ground.
Yeah, some are aware I'm coming, and so they can set it up.
Well, listen, discotheque or not, many of us have had what could be called a deeply spiritual experience. It could be spurred on by a moment of intense emotion, like the birth of a child or a near-death experience, or it could be achieved through deep meditation or just spontaneously pop up for no apparent reason. Probably crossed a ley line or something. But even non-believers can have powerful moments where we feel some sort of deep connection to the people or the world or the universe around us. I want to take us all back in time to the year 1962. It's Good Friday, and a group of 20 graduate divinity students all enter Marsh Chapel, which is a lovely sort of neo-Gothic structure smack dab in the middle of the campus at Boston University. There, they hear a languid, slower equals more meaningful service given by the legendary Reverend Howard Thurman, who was Martin Luther King Jr.'s mentor. Now, there was nothing particularly unique about the service that they heard that day. It was pretty much what you'd expect from a Good Friday service. Jesus was amazing, and bad people killed him, but he came back, hooray, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But, as written by somebody way smarter than me. Good writing notwithstanding, it was nothing that these divinity students hadn't heard before. In point of fact, it was a sentiment they had presumably heard every year since their childhood, though... Seriously, I listened to a bunch of this particular service, which I managed to find online, and whoo, Reverend Thurman hit the gas a little.
Oh,
You're being lapped by old Mormon apostles.
Oh, really? Super slow?
Yeah, boy, howdy. It was mesmerizing. Anyway, slow sermonizing notwithstanding, half of those students subsequently reported having one of the most powerful spiritual experiences of their lives.
Gas leak.
Like life-changing. The other half? Just another day at church. So why only half? What made the difference? Well, this was the now famous Marsh Chapel experiment, led by Walter P. Pankey, a graduate theology student himself at Harvard Divinity School. He wanted to see if he could manufacture a deep spiritual experience in people specifically primed for religious feelings and belief. Prior to attending the service, the subjects were divided in half. One half was given a large dose of niacin, which would have minor physiological effects, including, their faces flushing and getting hot and tingly. That was the control group. The reason that the control group needed to feel something weird was because that this was a double-blind study, and everybody needed to plausibly think that they had gotten the real experimental substance, which in this case was psilocybin.
Okay,
that's right. He sent half the group to church tripping balls on magic mushrooms.
So tell me again what religion this was?
Well, I mean, the chapel was just sort of a non-denominational. Well, I think it started out as a Methodist church, but now it's non-denominational.
Gotcha.
I'm not sure what it was at the time. But yeah, he sent all of these Christian theology students, divinity students, in, but half of them were tripping on mushrooms.
Holy cow!
Did they know they were going to be taking a psychoactive drug?
Yes.
Okay. They
did. They knew that and they knew that it was, and like I said, it was double blinded. So the other half took the
placebo,
niacin, which made something happen in them.
Yeah.
But didn't have the same effect as psilocybin, obviously. Right. And guess what? It totally worked.
Of course it worked.
Even 25 years later, 9 out of the 10 subjects that got the psilocybin reported that the event was one of the high points of their spiritual life. Now, this experiment, which was conducted under the supervision of Timothy Leary and Richard Alpert, who was later known as Ram Dass, of the Harvard psilocybin project, it wasn't great science, but it did point to a phenomenon that has been confirmed by many studies since. Apparently, mind-altering drugs can totally convince people that they've touched the divine.
Oh, yeah.
Wait, you say it like it's so obvious. I don't think...
Probably it would be true. I wouldn't know.
Yes, thank you for walking that back. Look, there's no way to know for sure, but
How do
it
I
has
hit
been...
rewind?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm just going to have you cut out of the whole episode.
Thank you.
I don't think we need you.
Thank you.
It has been theorized, and it is totally possible that religion itself came into existence because humans started using entheogenic drugs. Now, astute listeners to our show will recognize the word entheogenic from episode 135 when we discussed the Aztec god Xochipilli.
Yeah.
I wasn't able to say it on that episode either. Which is the flower prince of the Aztecs. He was adorned with many plants, all of which can apparently get you high as fuck. That word, entheogenic, was coined in the late 1970s by some ethnobotanists. That would be people who study the interplay between humans and plants. And it literally means something that causes God to be in you, but figuratively means something more along the lines of something that causes spirity feelings. It turns out that drugs do this really well. Like, really, really well. It also turns out that there are references to drugs in a lot of ancient religious texts. So the theory that drugs were a major part of early religion is not completely out of left field. Hell, there are Stone Age rock art images in Siberia depicting people with mushroom-shaped heads or mushrooms growing out of their heads or their hands. Prehistoric mushroom-themed petroglyphs also exist in Algeria, Spain, and even here in Utah. Now, obviously, some pictures scratched into a rock wall aren't proof that people practiced psychedelic-based religious rituals. But there's some compelling evidence that could be exactly what was going on. Consider, for example, the account by Swedish Colonel Philip Johann von Strahlenberg, who wrote in 1736 about the Koryak people of the Kamchatka region of Siberia. Remember that Siberia is where some of those petroglyphs are.
And importantly, Kamchatka is where Doug always wanted to concentrate his armies in Risk.
In Risk,
and I never lost.
Nope.
Obviously because
of its strategic importance.
Because of the mushrooms.
Yeah.
So anyway, Philip Johann von Strahlenberg fought in the war between Sweden and Russia in the 1700s and was captured by the Russians and sent as a prisoner to Siberia. So the Koryaks he wrote about lived in a place that was literally so horrific that other people were sent there as a punishment. So no wonder then that they were still regularly eating psychoactive mushrooms.
Yeah.
And not just eating it, not everybody could afford to have a constant store of the fungus, so the less fortunate folks would wait around when the more well-to-do types would get high and show up with wooden bowls. Apparently this is true. Those who were tripping would eventually grace the others by peeing into their bowls, and that pee was then happily lapped up, and it would be more than enough to get the next dudes high.
Oh, wow.
And then sometimes they would bestow their pee on somebody, and apparently you could get high off the 4th or even 5th round of pee. So, pro tip there, I guess.
Boy, I'd hate to be the 6th guy in line.
Right? Oh, man.
Or maybe it's just more concentrated by then.
Yeah, maybe it's even better.
Yeah.
This phenomenon was later confirmed by other travelers over the years. All of it seemed to be connected to the religious practices of the region. The use of mushrooms was common in many Siberian tribes, particularly among their shamans, who used the drugs to get to an exalted state and talk to the gods. Arguably, the most ancient religious writing that exists is the Hindu text, the Rig Veda, excluding the Epic of Gilgamesh, because scholars disagree about whether it's religious in nature. The Rig Veda is dated between 1500 and 1200 BCE, so it's old. Not too long after that is the Zoroastrian text from Persia, the Avesta, or Avesta. Both of these describe the use of a drink derived from a plant called soma in the Rig Veda and hauma in the Avesta. That caused ecstatic feelings of power and supernatural abilities. People who knew how to use soma could use them to converse with the deities. Here's a fun little Vedic verse as an example. Heaven above does not equal 1/2 of me. Have I been drinking soma? In my glory I have passed beyond earth and sky. Have I been drinking soma? I will pick up the earth and put it here or there. Seriously, have I been drinking soma? I'll have what he's having. Am I right?
Yeah, and this whole time with Don Jr., I thought it was cocaine, but apparently it's soma.
Right, exactly. So research suggests that ancient so-called mystery religions of ancient Greece used entheogens. One group of researchers even suggested that the prophecies of the Oracle of Delphi had a little help from gases that wafted up from the ground there.
Yeah, I've read that.
So that's fun.
Some sort of hallucinogenic gas. I don't know what that is, but I want it.
But that's a hell of a place to build an oracle.
Maybe it was over a dentist's office and they were just getting nitrous.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. Always build your office over a dentist's office.
Oh, your oracle.
Case. Yeah. Of course, the Native people of the Americas found lots of fun ways to commune with the divine. As I mentioned before, the Aztecs really knew their way around some fuck-you-up plants. The use of peyote is still an integral part of Native American religions. One famous way that South American natives came into contact with the gods was through the use of ayahuasca, a plant-based tea concoction that is still very much around and is currently being studied, though not very well, as it is illegal in most countries, for its potential to help folks with all kinds of psychological ailments. Ayahuasca goes back to the very earliest Aboriginal people of the Amazon basin, which I assume means that Lamanites figured out how to make it.
Yeah.
There are lots of theories about ancient Jewish drug use and even entheogenic origins of Christianity, but that's all so far back in history that it's just speculation. There are, however, far more recent religions with lots of good records to look at. So how's this for interesting? There is a paper published in the Journal of Psychedelic Studies, which seems to be a real scholarly journal, co-written by several people, including friend of the show, Bryce Blankenagel of the Naked Mormonism podcast.
I was going to bring that up. Bryce has some opinions here.
Yes, indeed. This paper makes a credible case that the frequent ecstatic visions and angel sightings, etc., in the early days of the Mormon Church were consistent with the use of entheogens. Now, I'll admit that I was pretty skeptical of that thesis, but they're really thorough in their research, and by the end of the paper, I found the claim pretty compelling, especially considering that the major spiritual experiences that were reported during Joseph Smith's reign fell off completely when Brigham Young took over.
Yeah, that guy was a narc. He was no fucking fun.
100%. But maybe our boy Joe might have been doping folk, which is an interesting theory for how to get a religion started, and not completely implausible. If you ask me.
It gives new meaning to the old spirit eyes of the witnesses, right?
Right.
Well, it also, you're going to talk about the White Salamander letter at all, Dan?
No.
It just informs the fact that the church was so willing to purchase that forged document off of Mark Hoffman.
Right.
Because there was, almost certainly in the upper echelons of the Mormon church, at least some notion that Joseph Smith might have been
tripping balls.
Yep.
Yeah. Dude, the reason that it was plausible was because of so many other stories that we know about Joseph Smith where he did talk about seeing all kinds of crazy shit.
Yeah,
he could have just been making it up.
He was into magic. He was into dowsing.
Yeah.
He was into spiritism.
Yeah.
So if that was a tool that was in vogue or being passed around those circles, I can't imagine he wouldn't have availed himself of it.
Right. Well, and it's not just, and if it were just him, I'd be fine with saying he probably just was faking and making it up. But it was congregants that were also experiencing, very sort of ecstatic visions and all sorts of things. So it's very possible, the three witnesses, there's a story in Mormonism where 3 men went with Joseph and quote unquote witnessed the golden plates. Though they never saw them with their eyes.
They saw them with their spirit eyes.
They saw them with their spirit eyes. Maybe the reason... Because I always thought, God damn, that is pure balls of Joseph Smith to be like, all right, guys, we're going out into the forest and you're going to see the plates, but not in person. You're going to see them with your spirit eyes. I thought that was just pure balls, but I feel like maybe you have a better chance of it if you get everybody stoned before you take them out there.
Yeah.
Look, regardless of whether entheogens were the origin of the religion or not, or of religion in general or not, as we learned from those filthy hippies in the 60s, drugs can be powerful in the creation of religious feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Take, for example, the drug DMT, annoyingly nicknamed the spirit molecule. DMT is the active ingredient in ayahuasca, but can also be taken in a much more powerful form on its own. In an online survey of over 2,500 people who had tried DMT, researchers at Johns Hopkins University found that almost 60% of respondents said that using DMT had triggered a belief in divine or supernatural entities. Here's the thing. DMT takes you away. You lose all sense of where you are or
like
even
Calgon.
Who you are. What was that, Uncle
Like
Mark?
Calgon.
Yes, indeed.
You guys aren't old enough. You don't remember that. Okay, fine.
Oh, no, I know Calgon will take you away.
Yeah.
It's true.
Because the active ingredient was DMT.
That's right. That's right.
And DDT.
It got your clothes clean and made you high as fuck.
Yeah.
No, you go all the way away. You go into a fully hallucinogenic place and time. Literally everything you experience in the short time that DMT has its way with you is divorced from reality. Not that I would know, because, I wouldn't admit to the crime of having tried a Schedule I substance. But if I had, I could tell you that you definitely feel like you went somewhere completely unrelated to where your friends can later confirm that your body stayed. And while this podcast officially says you should not engage in illegal activity, if you do try DMT, be sure that there are friends that you trust staying sober there with you.
Yeah, because otherwise your body will go away.
It'll just wander off. Yeah. And what will you have to come back to?
Or at the very least, your kidneys.
Yeah. The respondents to the Johns Hopkins survey had taken DMT an average of 14 times.
Wow.
They frequently reported meeting up with entities that they saw alternatively as angels, gods, demons, fairies, aliens. My friend called them guides. They're usually felt to be benevolent and often reported as giving wisdom and understanding. There is a different possible outcome, however. Less than 15% of the time, the entities are experienced as judgmental or malicious, which can lead to a pretty scary trip, at the end of which Dave, who has spent the night excitedly telling you about how awesome the entities are, will get very snooty with you and imply that there's something wrong with you spiritually. Well, fuck you, Dave. It's just a stupid drug, not a conduit to a special universe. And no, it definitely hasn't made you more wise or more in tune with humanity, no matter what Joe Rogan and his idiot guests say. Fucking Dave. Anyway, that wasn't a personal thing at all.
No.
I'm just saying in general.
Your complete lack of kind of emotional attachment to that story made it clear that it had nothing to do with you personally.
It was about that Johns Hopkins thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Anyway, look, there are a lot of potential positives to the use of these drugs. Psilocybin is looking very promising as a clinical treatment for depression. Ayahuasca could be amazing for PTSD, as could MDMA, also known as ecstasy. The list actually goes on and on.
Yeah, I have a friend who has been going through ketamine therapy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And,
there's a form of ketamine that is now that is kind of the first psychoactive drug that has been legalized for use in a clinical environment. So that's great.
And I think he's in one of the first kind of groups of that. Yeah.
Is there such a thing as single malt Scotch therapy? Just I'm asking for a friend.
It's not a clinical therapy. But definitely it exists.
Yes, the bartender therapy is a time-tested method.
Right. And if you don't have a bar around, you can be your own therapist.
Yeah.
Look, unfortunately, since the substances are on the super duper no-no list in many countries, they're really hard to study. We'll see what happens, but for now they're illegal, so don't use them. For real. You might have a nice time, but you might also develop a bunch of really goofy beliefs and start a religion, so side effects may not be worth the risk.
You may find yourself getting shot out of an upper story window in Carthage, Illinois, and be like, this took a turn.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So there you have it, fellas. Don't do drugs. Is pretty much the constant message of our show, right?
This is a constant message of our show. It's moderation in all things is what we talk about here on the How to Heretic.
But if you do, found a religion and make some money.
Right.
Yeah.
But definitely don't believe that something amazing. Look, here's the weird.
Something amazing does happen. It does happen. It's just it's not supernatural.
Right. You're fucking with your brain chemistry. Your brain is the only thing that you are.
Yeah.
Like, your brain is you, and you're fucking with it. So whatever you experience was real, was your experience of a thing. That doesn't mean anything supernatural happened. It doesn't mean you encountered an entity. You encountered what your brain makes up.
You encountered
know what I mean? Like, it might have been a really profound experience, and great. Go with that. You know, if you feel like you became more wise because you understood something that you didn't understand before, okay. Just please, it will annoy me way too much if you tell me that it was that you actually encountered something spiritual, because it's just too annoying for words.
Yeah, you just spiked the punch of your brain chemistry, and that can be a good time, but that's what it is.
Yeah.
Yep.
All righty. Well, let's shine on.
Uncle Mark.
Yeah. What is it? What do you want from me? What do you want?
Well, 'tis the season. See, it's
your house.
A beautiful time
Your
of
house.
year.
No, you listen here.
My mouth's bleeding. It's the time of year when people bust out the classics.
Sure.
I've been saving it, but this is the week I'm going to watch Die Hard, as I always do.
Die Hard. I don't. If people who say that's not a Christmas movie are the worst people alive.
Christmas is integral to the plot of the show.
Yeah.
It's a Christmas movie.
How do you say now I have a machine gun and not have ho 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 ho? Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, like yippee-ki-yay, motherfuckers. That's what Santa yells when he gets in the sleigh, right?
I mean, honestly,
in my
you've
world,
got Scrooge and Hans Gruber, and the Grinch. Those are the three great Christmas villains. And I don't know how anyone can say otherwise.
Arguably the best Christmas movie, and in fact, this is literally true, is The Lion in Winter. Right? It's a Christmas movie. You got your Peter O'Toole, you got your Katharine Hepburn.
I'm 50 alive and king all at the same time.
You got Tony Hopkins. You got Timothy Dalton. I mean, it's a cast of several.
Yeah.
It's
I suppose I should just take it from here, huh?
Yeah. Go ahead.
All right. Well, dear
I was
uncles,
really enjoying our conversation, but fine. Go ahead, Doug.
I will ruin that. As is no doubt obvious to all who are listening to this podcast, 'tis the season. For our listeners who are catching this episode when it comes out, this is Christmas week. We have covered Christmas and all its baggage on this show many times before. We've discussed in episode 13 how the foundational story of Christmas is an amalgamation of mostly two contradictory stories in the Bible. How early Christians...
just unrelated.
Unrelated. Contradictory, though, for sure.
Yeah.
How early Christians in 336 transplanted Jesus' birthday to the pagan solstice. How the Christmas tree is a sop to that self-same pagan holiday. How gift-giving is a vestige of the wise men, or magi, from the book of Matthew that Uncle Dan talked about just weeks ago in episode 168, even though the actual, read mythical, gift-giving took place up to 2 years after Jesus' birth, and almost certainly not on his birthday. But oh well. And we've talked about how the celebration of the humble birth of a prophet whose entire mission in life would be to rail against wealth and consumerism has morphed into an orgiastic and ostentatious spending spree on planet-killing, plastic-covered electronics, assembled not by elves, but by Chinese children for slave wages. Instead of, say, spending that money... Merry Christmas. Instead of, say, spending that money on the poor as Jesus repeatedly commanded. All it makes is sense. So today, I would like to explore another strange and vestigial Christmas tradition that is as ingrained in our collective Americana as apple pie and systemic racism. Today, I want to talk about It's a Wonderful Life.
Wonderful.
For those of you...
I've got my bell ready. I'm going to start doling out some wings.
Clarence!
For those of you who have never heard of this film, that means you either had merciful parents or you're young. In either case, I hate you. This film can be found playing somewhere in the cable universe from mid-October all the way through Christmas, and boasts some of the most iconic scenes in film history, as well as perhaps the most famous ending ever. Now, I want to tread carefully so as not to piss off the Gamcast boys, lest in their anger they dispatch the member of their trio who is obviously the muscle, Eli Bosnick, to come and break my thumbs. So
I'm pretty sure it's Heath.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, but Eli's the one who'd bring a spider.
You know, Eli is the master to Heath's blaster. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time picking apart the plot, the performances, or the dialogue, but rather focus on some of the troubling religious, socioeconomic, and racial themes of the movie, and there are some. I was surfing the channels the other day and saw this movie on, and out of a sense of nostalgia, and because I'm not ready to start the Queen just yet, I stopped for a minute, and I'll get to the scene that I happened upon in just a minute, but as you'll see, it caught me off guard in a big way. So I started thinking about the plot and the themes of the movie, and ta-da, I had my segment for the day. Let's start off with the movie itself, made and set in 1946 by Frank Capra, a prolific filmmaker of the 1930s and 1940s. He directed such classics as Mr. Smith Goes to Washington and You Can't Take It With You, as well as a ton of propaganda films for the U.S. government during World War II, including The Negro Soldier, which is not nearly as problematic as it sounds, and Know Your Enemy, Japan.
It sounds pretty problematic.
Well, the Know Your Enemy, Japan is definitely that problematic.
Yeah.
The film stars, of course, Jimmy Stewart. That's It's a Wonderful Life, not Know Your Enemy, Japan. Jimmy Stewart as George Bailey, Donna Reed as his wife Mary, Lionel Barrymore as the villainous Mr. Potter, and Henry Travers.
That's Drew's grandpa, by the way.
Yeah, that's right. And Henry Travers as the hapless guardian angel Clarence Oddbody. The film is set in the sleepy town of Bedford Falls, New York, and follows the down-on-his-luck George Bailey. George has sacrificed all his life so that others can prosper, including by staying and to run the family business, a savings and loan, even though he hates it. His forgetful uncle accidentally misplaces the last $8,000, which the evil Mr. Potter finds and pockets, leading to certain financial ruin for George and his family. He soon realizes that his life insurance is the only way out for his family, so believing himself to be more worth dead than alive, he gets ready to throw himself into a freezing river. That's when the hapless guardian angel leaps in first, forcing George to save him. Clarence has been sent to help George, and if successful, he might finally earn his angel wings. More on that in a little bit. Clarence then shows George what the world would be like were he never born. His brother, whom he pulled out of an icy river, would have died and therefore not fought in World War II, where he saved some 200 men in a troop transport. His boss at his first job in a pharmacy would have drunkenly poisoned a family by administering the wrong drug because George wasn't there to stop him. And the sleepy Rockwell-esque town of Bedford Falls has been turned into the den of iniquity called Pottersville, complete with bars, dance halls, and pawn shops.
Oh no! Skun dun dun! A fate worse than death.
Exactly. And this.
No, you've got the jazz in here. Look what's
Exactly.
happened.
And this downtown Pottersville is basically downtown anywhere America in the 21st century. So
Right.
Worst of all, and we'll come back to this, Mary has never married and has become a lonely, sad spinster.
Aww.
Now convinced of his value and realizing how lucky he was all along, he begs for his old life back, and it's granted. He returns home only to be confronted by officers of the bank that are there to foreclose on him at his home in front of his family on Christmas Eve.
Which,
Well, it's more relevant than ever.
That's true.
yeah,
As
exactly.
the eviction
was
crisis.
was the forecloser named something like Bezos? Was it? I don't remember exactly.
But what do you-
yeah, Amazon is going to come and foreclose on you, right?
Yeah, hey man, you never know. But wouldn't you know it, the whole town has heard about his plight, and one by one they crowd into his house to share whatever cash they can, saving his house and business. The scene ends with his hero brother toasting him as the richest man in town as everyone sings Auld Lang Syne. A bell rings on the Christmas tree, and George's daughter says, "Daddy, Daddy." Teacher says every time a bell rings, an angel gets his wings. Fade to black.
That's right. That's right.
In spite of all the problems with this movie, if you can watch that scene and not tear up, there is something fundamentally wrong with you. Okay.
I mean, there is something fundamentally wrong with me, but it's not that.
It's not that. There's something else. Okay. So a man at his lowest point is shown his true value to all those around him and how a life of selflessness has made the lives of those around him better. And in his time of need, they come to return the favor. What could be a better message than that? Well, there's a wee bit more to it. Let's go back to the beginning of the movie. How it actually begins is we hear the voiceover of all of George's neighbors praying to God because their good friend is in trouble. Then we venture far out into space, somewhere near Kolob, to hear two galaxies, clearly meant to represent God and one of his angels named Joseph, talking to each other. You guys remember that? The galaxies kind of glowed as they said words to each other.
Can I
It's
make
been a minute since I saw this movie.
Yeah,
So.
I'm going to admit something. I don't think I've seen that movie since I was probably 12.
Okay.
Yeah.
So these two galaxies are talking to each other. They say that because of the volume of prayers they're getting, they're going to have to send someone down to deal with this George. Okay, first problem. What is the threshold of prayer necessary to stir these divine beings into action? Is it a dozen? 2 dozen? If only a couple of George's neighbors had decided to pray for him, would he have been left alone to kill himself?
I love the thought anytime anybody says, because you see this all over the place. Well, we've got 20,000 people praying for this, that, and the other. And it's like, how is that any better than one person praying?
Right,
Like,
exactly.
If it's the right thing for God to do, shouldn't he already
Does he
have
need
figured
to
that
be
out?
does he need to be pushed into action? Let's also remember that this film is taking place in 1946, mere months after the largest catastrophe in human history had just taken place. Apparently, there were not enough
Chernobyl?
prayers lodged by the Polish, Belarusian, or German Jews.
Right.
These supremely powerful beings sat in somber silence as Hitler rolled over Europe and Stalin starved his people. But look out! There's 17 people praying for a banker in upstate New York. Let's do something.
Well, they're white Americans, Doug.
There you go. So, who do they decide to send on this ever-important mission? Why, hapless old Clarence, an angel that despite 200 years of trying has yet to get his wings. They claim that it's his turn, and they must send him. I mean, what are you going to do? It's his turn. It also means that for 200 years, Clarence has been sent to Earth to try and help other people, but has failed utterly. Where's that movie?
Right?
Right?
Can we make that?
Of
I don't think we need billionaire money, but we should definitely make that movie.
No doubt. Of Clarence, the two deities say he's got the IQ of a rabbit, but the faith of a child.
Which
What-
is supposed to be a good thing, probably.
I guess, but what part does faith play in the life of an angel?
Right?
Isn't the whole having faith part of the journey supposed to be over when you're, an angel?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Not a lot of mystery left at that point.
Exactly. These two deities then show Clarence George's life in order to help him understand how to help him. From childhood to the fateful bridge. This is where we meet one of the only 2 people of color in the film. Well, there's 3 actually. I misspoke. It's the Bailey's maid, Annie. Let's just say her character would feel just as at home in a Tom and Jerry cartoon. George and his brother Harry are horsing around, and Harry chases Annie into the kitchen as he gives her a big slap on the butt. This is the scene I happen to tune into. I'm like, oh,
yikes!
I don't remember that. Okay. The only other people of color we see in the movie are a train conductor and a jazz musician playing the devil's music in one of the gin joints in Pottersville. Once you notice this, it's pretty apparent. To be fair to this movie, it was a product of its time and place. It's just that its time and place were Jim Crow America.
Right.
It makes one wonder what this movie feels like from basically any other perspective.
Right.
We go on to see George fall in love, give up his dreams of travel, and break his spirit fighting the evil capitalist Mr. Potter. He has to forego his honeymoon to prevent a run on his bank, while his friends and family all go on to move to the big city and take lucrative jobs. This all leads to his attempted suicide and glimpse into the alternate future. It's here that we bump into another big bit of a problem. As mentioned before, while wandering this dystopian present, we see his beloved Mary. Because she never met George, she never found true love, and never married. At the ripe old age of 38, she's an old maid, alone, useless, and hopeless. Worse, he finds her closing up her shift at the library.
Oh.
I know.
Oh,
the spinster's
the fate
doom.
of all unlovable spinsters, right?
Exactly.
in the great American narrative.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
The problem the filmmakers had and did not overcome is that it's not possible to portray Donna Reed as anything but impossibly beautiful.
Right.
And rather than looking like an old maid, she looks like the librarian at the beginning of an 80s hairband video.
Right.
George begins chasing her, so terrified she runs into a bar where George gets into a fight with a cop and runs away. And in what is probably the most believable part of the movie, the cop opens fire on a crowded street.
Wow.
Having seen enough, George returns home to the aforementioned happy ending. Here's the thing, though. Although Clarence, and by extension God, showed George the world without him, they did nothing to solve his crisis in World 1.
Right.
If his neighbors had not taken it upon themselves to rescue George, he would have lost his house and business and been in the same predicament he was at the beginning. Remember that old phrase we used to hear in church, pray as if everything depended on you, but act as if everything... Sorry, pray as if everything depends on God, but act as if everything depends on you.
Uh-huh.
Well, why not cut out the middleman?
Yeah, exactly.
George's
The
neighbor...
result is the same whether you believe in the God part or not.
Exactly. George's neighbor saved his bacon because he had been a decent man throughout his life, and before you try and claim that God inspired his neighbors to take action, this was the same God who was busy ignoring George's plight at the beginning of the film, along with the Holocaust. And not for nothing, but not only is Potter never punished for his shady dealings and outright theft, but he remains an ever-powerful specter in Bedford Falls. All George did at the end of the movie was stave off Potter's latest but certainly not last attempt to take the savings and loan.
Right.
Where's that movie? Lastly, did God create an alternate reality in which all the pain and misery of Pottersville came to pass just to show George how good he had it? At the same time he was building a wonderful life with Mary, was she growing old, alone, and afraid in this alternate reality? And what happened after George left? Did God simply snuff out the lives of all those people or just let the reality continue to play out? Hashtag, what happened to Pottersville? Okay, I think I've peed enough in everyone's Cheerios. Thematically, racially, and sexually, this movie is highly problematic. But like most Christmas traditions, we can know the truth and still be at least resigned to it. So watch it, try not to think too hard about it, and try not to cry at the ending. Most of all, try not to think about the fact that in all likelihood, we are living in the Pottersville timeline.
What I love, I love that, and again, I'm admitting I haven't really seen the movie, but I've heard a lot of people talk about it. But the great sin of the ogre Potter is charging 3% interest.
That's right.
Yeah, like people would fucking kill each other to get 3% interest.
That's right.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's it didn't win any awards. It won one technical award for the snow. Because,
interesting.
Yeah, the snow, if you watch the movie, is very realistic. It's kind of shockingly realistic. But
Take note, Uncle Mark.
But they were
learn to do it.
They were filming in L.A. in 90-degree heat.
Wow.
So they came up with this new kind of snow that was a firefighting chemical called fomite.
I thought you were going to say asbestos. I was sure you were going to say
there's
asbestos.
something terrible.
Well, almost every firefighting chemical is extremely toxic.
Right, exactly.
Fire retardants are deadly, deadly toxic.
Yeah. But so there you go. This American Life. I mean, God damn it.
Three times this week, Dan and I would say, Doug, what are you doing? And he'd be like, This American Life. And we're like, okay, well.
I mean,
okay, well, we're taking on Ira Glass, I guess.
Yeah.
I almost got through it. It's a Wonderful Life.
We're taking on the insidious Jew behind NPR's beloved documentary series.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks, Uncle Doug. It is a Wonderful Life and an American Life.
Merry Christmas!
Let's move on. Gentlemen.
Hello.
Hello.
Look, again, we do a show. We're sitting here. We're blathering into the internet, which I'm talking. I don't know about you guys. I'm talking directly into the internet right now. Please speak directly into the series of tubes.
Yeah, what you are seeing is what Dan sees right now is like Johnny Mnemonic. It's really cool. It's really
I really thought you were going to go with a different a different Keanu movie. I thought we were going to go with the green code lines of vertical code from the Matrix.
My husband pulled up Johnny Mnemonic the other night because we were just bored. Have you guys looked at that recently?
No.
Nope.
Oh my God. It is.
I thought it was really bad when it came out. I can't imagine.
Like the computer, they're in the digital fucking. It's pre-Matrix, right? They're in the digital scape or whatever. It's fucking so horrendous.
I may have to check it out.
Yeah.
That would be fun. Anywho, we talk into the internet, and then some people hear what we have to say, and if they like it a lot, and if they have the means, they can become one of the greatest people in the world, and those are our donors. We have a couple people to thank this week. Keely with a C, thank you so much for your new patronage. And then, Uncle Mark, you have somebody to thank too, right?
Yes, Ryan from PayPal. Thank you so much. And remember that, it's the holiday season, whether that's Kwanzaa or Chanukah, I believe is how Smokey Robinson said it the other day. You want to buy presents for your loved ones, but please buy one for us. And you can do that if you just a one-time payment if you like through PayPal, which is now available on our page.
Or your present for your loved one could be that you become a patron to us in their name. What about that?
Buy them a heaven or a saint.
Boom.
What greater love?
What greater love hath anyone? Also, you can put up a review on one of the many places that reviews can happen, including iTunes or Stitcher or whatever. And write. You can give us the 5 stars, 5 only, and that's an awesome thing to do. But you can also write a review and run the risk of me actually reading it to everybody on the show. Today's comes from Kolahu12, who says the title of their review is "Even Better Than Okay," which is high praise.
I'll take it. It's a win. It's in the win column.
100%.
Yeah.
This is easily one of my favorite podcasts. Our uncles have created a space where we can feel safe joking about a shared trauma many of us share, religion, but also validate us on a very difficult decision to leave. After years of religious doctrine being the only source of knowledge about our religions, it's liberating to allow ourselves to look at the church's official doctrine in a new light. How to Heretic has made that usually extremely boring task a lot more bearable. So there you go. Big win, fellas.
Oh, and that's sweet.
Very nice.
Yeah, very kind. Thank you for that.
Sure do appreciate it. Feel free to write a review, and I will check the reviews, and maybe you'll be the next one on The Price is Right, on whatever show this is.
That's right. On 5 stars, buy you fame.
That's right.
Uncle Dan.
Hello.
Longtime listeners of this show will know that we try to be ecumenical in our scorn and make funningness of other religions.
A, what does ecumenical mean? And B, we have longtime listeners? This is great.
They actually use our podcast to keep people awake in Gitmo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's cruel but fair.
But there
hey,
is
Muhammad,
one.
How's it going, dude? We'll get you out of there soon.
There's one religion that because it pretty much runs everything in this state we make fun of more than any other.
Yeah. Also, it tortured us for years of our lives.
Also
so
that.
It had it coming.
Yeah.
And that is the Episcopalians.
That's
Boom.
right. God damn you people.
Yeah. So I can't believe I'm going to say what I'm about to say, guys, but there's something happening in Mormonism.
Whoa.
I know. As much as we have and will talk about Mormonism and its fascinating beliefs and history, where plenty, almost too much shit has happened, it's now quite famous for trying to make things not happen at all. It is so profoundly resistant to change, it's a wonder Mormons ever change their socks.
Yeah.
And resistance to change is the hallmark of any conservative institution, which, once it acquires the status, position, and material goods it desires, stands athwart history yelling "stop," to ever so slightly paraphrase the odious William F. Buckley.
Yeah.
Modern Mormonism is ossified. It is a fossil, like the men who lead it, and that is very much by design. And I'm sure that most any man or woman on the street anywhere in the world who knew just about anything about the subject would tell you Mormonism is a very conservative institution. But that hasn't always really been the case.
True.
Like many early American utopian spiritual movements it shares DNA with, it was fairly radical at its inception, with wild ideas like interplanetary pre- and post-mortal existence, direct revelation for all male priesthood holders, an early form of communism, polygamy, etc., and that Joseph Smith raised what was an enormous private army called the Nauvoo Legion, which made authorities at every level of government pretty itchy. Mormonism became even more radical after the death of Joseph Smith in a gunfight and brawl in 1844, when Brigham Young, opting to leave the hated United States and build a theocratic empire in the mountains of what was then Mexico, Young later greedily rubbed his hands as he watched the Civil War raging, hoping both sides would fuck each other up so much that the Mormons could go back out and take over what was left.
Yeah.
And as many listeners already know, Mormonism, though these days wishing to appear like an advertisement for Leave It to Beaver, has an extremely violent DNA. For the receipts on that, you can read John Krakauer's excellent Under the Banner of Heaven, or go to our webpage and just search the word Mormonism. Mormons have felt entitled to use violence, sometimes on a horrifying scale, looking at you, Mountain Meadows Massacre, to defend what they even today feel is a besieged faith. And there is a certain conditioning to respond to criticism, even mild criticism, with an absurd level of overreaction. And while for all of its history that we've experienced, guys, for me that's almost a quarter of its existence, which is weird to think about.
Wow. You are old.
I'm old. It is spoken with a single, tightly controlled voice, has it not?
Yep.
Yeah. It is as top-down an organization as one will ever find on this flat earth. But it has experienced schisms of a type a few times. And this is playing off your episode. I think it was last week or the week before, Dan, on Thank God I'm Atheist.
Oh, yeah.
Were you and Frank kind of puzzled if there was some sort of schism maybe brewing in the church?
It's possible. Yeah.
Yeah. So just in Joseph Smith's lifetime, several disaffected members, once his closest confidants, left or were excommunicated, some hanging out prophetic shingles of their own. Upon his death, the church skizzed again, with Brigham Young seizing the keys to the kingdom from Joseph's young son, Joseph III, and his first wife, Emma.
That was the biggest of the schisms.
That was kind of the grand mal schiz.
They skizzed hard then.
Yeah, his majority became the Mormons we know today, Young's majority, while Joe III and Emma's branch became the RLDS and the Community of Christ out in Missouri, right?
Yep.
Another schism occurred in 1890, when in a bid to gain American statehood for Utah, Brigham Young's successor Wilford Woodruff had a, quote, revelation that the absolutely critical sacrament of polygamy would no longer be practiced on this side of the veil, only in the afterlife. This caused
he himself actually reneged on a couple times, marrying some other people to new wives, and which he had promised he would never do.
Exactly. He'd sworn to the United States. And this caused a fairly seismic fracturing of the church, with most of its with some of its conservative diehard members splitting off to form more righteous polygamous sects, while mainstream well-to-do Mormons like Wilford Woodruff practice it secretly a few inches over both the Mexican and Canadian borders.
Right.
Long story short, that's where Mitt Romney comes to us from. Far more recently, when Mormonism was under intense pressure from society at large, and BYU was under threat of being boycotted by other NCAA college sports teams for the church's inexcusable stance on the inferiority of black people and their ability to advance in the church, Prophet Spencer W. Kimball had a very timely revelation that black people were all good now. Mm-hmm. Of course, no apology or explanation of any kind was offered, but a small number of saintly racists broke with the downtown church and set off for more regressive shores. But 1978 is ancient history, fellas. And other than that little blip on the radar, the last 100 years of Mormonism has been pretty much monolithic in tone, voice, and theology. We grew up with the phrase from the primary song, "Follow the prophet," right? It's a commandment. As we've discussed before on the show, the Mormon prophet is the unquestionable and singular spokesman for God on earth. What he says is immediately gospel and canon for the most part. It's essentially the same for the other leadership that surrounds him. In the Mormonism we grew up in, questioning or criticizing the prophet or general authorities, or even just your lowly neighborhood bishop for that matter, was pretty much unimaginable. It just wasn't done.
Like literally every month there was a meeting. The major meeting of church was just people getting up and swearing on all that they had that they would basically do anything for the prophet.
And they didn't question the Joseph Smith or the prophet or anything in any way. No.
Right. They know that it's true. It's like that's the rote thing.
Yeah,
that
they
you
don't
say.
believe.
I know
they
this
know.
church is true.
Yeah. So here we are today in 2020. While the church hasn't
the
changed,
best year.
The best every year. Well, 2020 might make us look back with some fondness. I don't know. 2021. While the church hasn't changed a hell of a lot in 100 years, the world sure as fuck has. The current prophet of the church, Russell M. Nelson, was born in 1924. The same year George Gershwin's Rhapsody in Blue and Al Jolson's California Here I Come were the top-selling wax cylinders, and the first ever Winter Olympics were held with everyone using wooden skis. And I'm sure Russell M. Nelson would find those things disturbingly modern. And this man, basically half as old as his 200-year-old church, is in charge of it in the wonders and horrors of the information age. Doug talked about the nature of these men of the candlestick phone age leading the church in a 5G world and how they will always be 100 years behind the times in episode 77. I just listened to that again. It's a very good segment.
Well, thank you.
The radicalism of old-timey Mormonism is hidden away with so many of the rest of its skeletons. The institution, as I mentioned earlier, is very conservative at this point, socially and very much so politically. Before he was the Mormon prophet in the 1980s and the 1990s, Ezra Taft Benson had been in Eisenhower's cabinet at the height of the Cold War, where he fell under the sway of the most radically conservative movements in the country, including the John Birch Society. He was already friends with a guy named Cleon Skousen, who was a lunatic that we'll talk about another time.
Right.
But Ezra Taft Benson believed the protocols of the Elders of Zion, a salacious and insidious forgery we discussed in episode 49, was real. It is not. And he believed that the Jews were controlling black people worldwide to advance communism. Under his leadership, before
That's
and after
a double,
becoming...
by the way. He gets double points for that one.
Yeah, he was the whole package. Under his leadership, before and after becoming prophet, Mormonism went from reflexively conservative to decidedly right-wing.
Yeah.
And as such, it has dealt with the teensy little flare-ups of occasional whispers of progressive ideas or people within its ranks harshly.
Yeah.
In recent years, there have been high-profile excommunications and squashings. One was a group of progressive scholars who became known as the September 6. We can talk about them another time.
Yeah, of which my mom was almost one.
Your mom was almost September 7, right?
Mm. Yeah, exactly. She narrowly escaped, I think.
Good for her. She's good thing she has those fast feet.
Yeah.
And more recently, progressive activists in the Mormon sphere, like the therapist and podcaster John DeLynn, just for asking people to share their experiences, feminist activist Kate Kelly for the blasphemous audacity of her ordained women movement, a guy called Sam Young, who had the temerity to suggest that Mormon bishops should not be asking minors sexually explicit questions in one-on-one settings. Of course, Jeremy Runnels, who at his grandfather's request wrote a list of questions for a church education system authority to answer, better known as the CES letter, which Doug covered in episode 141. A list of questions, by the way, to which he never got an answer. That's going to matter in a second.
Not getting an answer was his answer.
What's that?
Not getting an answer was his answer.
Yeah, they just never answered. It's been years. So the church has done a fine job of pounding down any murmurings on its left flank. But what about its right flank? Well, the church itself is the right flank of the church normally. In sane times, being to the right of institutional Mormonism would knock you right off the edge of the chessboard. But not anymore. In this here digital age with Al Gore's internet, something kind of shocking to those of us who keep an eye on Temple Square is going on. And that is, there is something to the right of Mormonism within Mormonism, and it's looking kind of out of control.
Yeah.
Lots of struggling Mormons and ex-Mormons, like any other community, find each other online to try to figure out how to live life after leaving such a high-demand religion. But don't worry, there's an army of trolls waiting to send them threatening imagery and make vague death threats generally. The 501st Mom's Basement Division of Keyboard Commandos, known as Deseret Nation, is there to make sure any post-Mormon conversations online are properly peppered with images of infamous Mormon assassin Porter Rockwell and Bowie knives, with language about decapitation, etc.
Jesus.
Known as #Desnat online, these are maybe too faithful, hyper-conservative Mormons so secure in their belief they feel the need to harass and threaten anyone who doesn't believe exactly as they do.
You say too faithful, but I think you're going to get to them being not as faithful as we might assume.
Well, they're faithful to the Mormonism they've constructed in their minds, right?
Sure.
So why the Bowie knife image? Because during a talk in the Salt Lake Tabernacle, Brigham Young once unsheathed his Bowie knife and laid it on the podium, threatening to murder all the apostates within the sound of his voice. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
A group of Mormon intellectuals of some kind have just released a manifesto claiming their radical orthodoxy is a center lane between the church's more liberalizing and conservative forces. I don't know if you guys saw that article in the Trib, but...
I saw it. I literally have it open on my desktop. I just haven't read it yet.
Well, when you read what they're talking about and their ideas, it's just them freelancing in an attempt to pull the church all the way to the right and drown out progressive voices. They're hardly a center lane, right?
Well, it's so amazing. They say that they're center, and literally what they're centering themselves between is like moderate conservatism and the most extreme conservatism you can imagine.
Yeah.
And they're calling that center. It really is kind of insane.
It is insane, and they obviously don't understand, how you divide up things geometrically if they think that's the center. It's very...
They don't think that, right?
You can't call yourself orthodox and also the middle.
Yeah, radical orthodoxy. So
they're moving the Overton window, right? That's what they're doing.
Totally. And again, they're kind of doing this outside of church leadership, right?
Right.
So recently the leadership of the church did two things that were unthinkable to its most conservative members. An apostle encouraged wearing masks as a way to love our neighbors and protect each other. And the official church social media accounts, this was just last week, congratulated Joe Biden and Kamala Harris on their victory and expressed eagerness to work with the incoming administration. Well, very online right-wing Mormons went, berserk.
Really?
Berserk. It seems being deeply embedded in one cult makes you vulnerable to others. The influence of right-wing Mormonism, the cult of Trump, and QAnon, the confluence of those three things, made itself very apparent in the fugue of all caps and misspelled outrage that followed these announcements from the official church. People said they were either immediately or considering leaving the church over it forever, and questioning the prophet's sanity.
I keep thinking I can't be shocked. Yeah. And then the world keeps fucking shocking me.
Yeah. For non-Mormon listeners, it's impossible to overstate how falling in line is the greatest commandment in Mormonism.
Yeah.
Like you don't. This is not done, right?
No. In fact, if you were to, in the inner sanctum of a typical church meeting, which is, not a place for strangers, if you were to express the mildest doubt, the mildest concern about the position of a prophet or apostle, it would be, scratched record.
Yeah.
It's just not done.
Yeah, and they're questioning Nelson's sanity. Well, maybe he's too old. Maybe he's gone, he's soft in the head.
That's amazing.
And much more insulting, crazy stuff, right? So it's just not done. So institutional Mormonism itself is also not innocent in this shit-lording lurch to the right. There's a quasi-official church nonprofit apologetics operation called Fair Mormon, right? And we've talked about them before.
Yeah, they've appeared on this here podcast.
Yeah, and it's a sad fucking thing. It's a sad corner of the internet, right?
Yeah.
They have the loathsome task of trying to explain away the boatloads of problems in Mormon scripture and history that the official church can no longer keep concealed.
I think you mean submarine loads, but go ahead.
Yeah, I do mean submarine loads. Fair Mormon has but despite being, bullshit, it has typically been a pretty dry, unexciting, non-combative outlet for misinformation and little white lies, right? Until now. They've hired a group of YouTube comments made flesh to make apologetics videos to appeal to, well, it's not really clear to whom. They are, in a word, terrible. Yeah. They are seethingly vicious, unfunny, and so bursting with logical fallacies, lies, goalpost moving, and misdirects. You start to feel like Lucy and Ethel at the chocolate factory, just trying to focus on one or two canards at a time, right?
Right. They
claim Jeremy Runnels' CES letter is so stupid and full of lies that nobody with half a brain would even bother mentioning it. So unimportant, in fact, that they made 11 highly deceptive videos trying to refute it.
Right.
There was a great article in the Salt Lake Tribune featuring about these videos, featuring interviews with several Mormon academics and writers, really mourning how awful the videos are. These are Mormons. Wondering who in the hell this mean-spirited playground taunting is even meant to convince of anything. Now, as we've mentioned before on the show, the CES letter that they say doesn't matter at all, only to make 11 videos about it, is very much an existential threat to the church, as we have a source very close to the top-tier leadership, and I mean the top-tier leadership, right, that says they are panicked about it. And lest we forget, these trolls at Fair Mormon only have to produce this mean girl garbage because 7 years after the fact, the Church Education Service has still not answered Jeremy Runnels' questions from his letter. So the task has been outsourced to some shitty, unfunny Provo all-stars on YouTube. One of that group retweeted one of the aforementioned Bowie knife memes from some Desnat shitlord, which included the scene from Inglourious Bastards with the names of Jeremy Runnels and post-Mormon podcaster John DeLynn superimposed over the heads of the Nazis, and the name of one of the kids in the Fair Mormon videos over the guy who kills the Nazis with a baseball bat.
Right.
Jesus.
This has resulted in a flood of death threats to both Jeremy and John, who have had to contact the police and the FBI. On their webpage, to their credit, Fair Mormon, while denying that they had anything to do with the threatening memes and death threats, they take full responsibility for everything in the videos and say that is 100% their content. And they also clearly renounced the Desnat shit and death threats of any kind. So good for them.
Yeah, well, congratulations. You did the least you could do.
I was about to say, you did the least you could do.
But it is the least they could do. But as far as I can tell, that one statement on that webpage, Fair Mormon, is the only effort I can find anywhere that any branch of the church has come out against the seething, freelancing violence-threatening right flank of their membership. Nowhere else have I found any evidence to get this under control. Church leadership has nuked even the most timid voices of progress on its left, all the while totally ignoring the infiltration of conspiratorial thinking and a sizable movement into Trump-inspired fascism on the right. Some of that is surely due to its own rightward impulses, of course. The church is very conservative. But I think some of it is due to its aging leadership not having a clue how online communities grow and metastasize, how fast misinformation can spread, and then having no idea how to respond to a crisis they don't even understand.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely the case. Like the best thing they've come up with in the last year, in the last several years, is a hashtag.
Yeah.
They made everybody do, a week's worth of give thanks hashtag.
Yeah, just retweeting.
That was their big gambit.
Yep. So to my mind, a lot of this started when they failed to do anything about Glenn Beck, when he was a rising star of bullshit at Fox News in the mid-2000s. As a former drinker with a drug problem, this Mormon convert was one of the most high-profile Mormons in the world. His nightly broadcasts were a blizzard of conspiracy theories, falsehoods, racism leaning heavily on the Jew hatred, and other assorted madness. Mormons have always been vulnerable to conspiratorial thinking. I mean, it's a religion that is convinced itself the world is out to get them. They store 2 years of food in their basements. But Beck gave white Mormon men big media permission to drink unashamedly from the fire hose connected to the most insane corners of the tinfoil-wrapped right-wing mind. Because Mormons normally revere and almost worship their authorities, a call from Thomas S. Monson asking Beck to be more moderate, to slow down on the fugues of racism and lies, etc., could have been hugely effective in calming down his bullshit. But that never happened. It seems the church was happy to have such a media star in its ranks, regardless of what insidious puke he was dumping into the airwaves.
Well, half of them probably believed the same shit.
Totally. So part of the very public face of Mormonism right now is rageful, vicious, and possibly dangerous online and offline presence. The church either cannot, or maybe even worse, does not want to get it under control. But as the reaction to the mask suggestion and the bow to the reality of the Biden-Harris win show, there may be a sizable chunk of the membership that is done with the facade of niceness and respectability the church has so carefully constructed for decades.
Yeah.
It may be they'll refuse to be shushed, even if the church were to get around to doing it. But in any case, it seems like a major crisis they have absolutely no tools for handling, since punching hippies and feminists and spying on queer kids at BYU are the only tools in their box. So I don't know, that's kind of the gist of it. I've never seen a more kind of careening, uncontrolled conflagration within Mormonism in my lifetime.
Well, and it needs to be said too that the activity of these kids, leaving aside all of the many things we've documented on this show about Mormon misconduct, throughout the ages, towards black people, towards women, towards wagon trains, towards gay people, Mormon youth are supposed to be like pious and have good manners and not swear, and it's just that activity alone of
Mormon
these internet
young
trolls.
men all the way up into adulthood are really supposed to live by the Boy Scout oath, right?
Yeah, exactly. But so just these kids alone being this way and not having it kind of being clamped down on by even their parents.
Well, they're not children, right? These are
early
guys
20s,
in their
I assume.
20s, yeah.
Yeah, but it's not that the parents don't have some kind of sway, I would think, at this point. Certainly their ecclesiastical leaders do, their bishops, their stake presidents.
Sure.
But I do think,
and Fair Mormon is an official Mormon enterprise.
Yep.
And it pays for these videos. It's paying them to do this.
Yeah, and I think you're right. Trying to imagine the conversation of someone in the Mormon marketing department trying to explain to the apostles what an internet troll is,
right?
And how you go about fighting one. It's like speaking a different language to these people.
Right.
Yeah. And I do think you're right, Mark. It reminds me also of Sarah Palin, where they have given life to something that they can no longer control. And whether they can or can't, or want to or don't, they're not.
It essentially, a lot of this could be fixed with one conference talk. You know what I mean? Like one apostle or the prophet gets up and says, enough. This is not how we behave.
That's how I would assume that was right in any other time.
Yeah.
But I don't know that that's true anymore. It used to be that if the prophet, well, it used to be that if that an official communication from the church was it. Now I see equivocation every single time where people are like, well, this didn't come directly from the prophet, so it doesn't count. Or this wasn't signed and dated by the first presidency of the church, so it doesn't mean anything.
Right.
But I'm starting to think that even if the prophet himself got up during General Conference over the pulpit, which is technically supposed to be the be-all and the end-all of Mormon theology, and said, God himself has told me, you guys need to get with the program, I think he's lost him. I don't think he has the juice
I think he'd lose a sizable chunk.
Well, here's what I think they're terrified of. What if he did do that and they just said no?
Yeah. That's what I think is happening.
Yeah. And I think the church is, they have been bleeding youthful members for, 2 decades.
And part of the reason they're bleeding youthful members is because of this hippie punching, right? They're just, any progressive movement on their left flank, they just annihilate, right? And so kids are like, well, fuck that. I have gay friends. I'm not going to put up with this. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And now, the movement they tried to put together, because they did, this was an effort on the part of the church to try and, do some hip young YouTubing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it has gone in a very dark direction. And
it's so snide. I don't know that we've
It's vicious. It's really vicious.
You don't understand. Mormons are supposed to be the nicest people. When the you mentioned that the Salt Lake Tribune, Mark, did an article about these videos, and the woman who wrote the article, I'm Facebook friends with, and she put it out there. She said, What do you think about the Mormon Church attempting to use humor to bring people in? And I was like, I think they should try it.
Yeah.
Because this snide, mean, evil bullshit isn't working.
Yeah. And, it's typical of any kind of right-wing comedy is, look, every week we're three kind of chumps with no real comedy background who try to find the funny shit in some pretty terrible material. And comedy is, good comedy is it's a creative act. It's an act of empathy. It's an act of understanding other people. And it's also self-deprecating, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And there's just none of that.
It's you got to know, the comedians who are getting in trouble these days, who are getting canceled or whatever. I'm not talking about the ones who, molested people or whatever.
Yeah.
But the people who are getting canceled are the ones who don't understand where punching up and punching down goes.
Yeah. That's the thing, is punching down is almost never funny.
It's never funny.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's the thing.
That's
all
these
this
guys
is
are doing.
Yeah.
And I think punching, an official church outlet punching down at Jeremy Runnels, who is one of the nicest fucking people ever, right? Who approached the CES letter with great earnestness, not as a shitlord, right? He wasn't being a troll. And he's just a regular guy. He's just a nobody. And this, 11 videos just attacking his character and his person is despicable.
Yeah. Well, and let's be clear, too. As you mentioned before, Fair Mormon used to be more of an intellectual or even at least faux academic enterprise.
Yeah.
An attempt at intellectual.
Exactly.
Anyway.
But they would try and...
That was its veneer, yeah.
Right. This is not that. This is these people. They pretend to be kind of. It's stylized almost like a Daily Show or a Weekend Update on Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, it's kind of Weekend Update,
and it's and they're so it's a lot of asides and a lot of setups to the punchline, and it is utterly devoid of actual content. It's very snarky, it's very mean spirited, and I definitely come from a perspective here, but it's not fucking funny.
Yeah.
No, that's the greatest sin of all.
It's incredibly unfunny.
You could get away to me with not having much substance, which they don't have, if you were funny. But the fact that it is so profoundly unfunny and humorless, and they just leaned on mean, means to me that's the greatest.
Well, for instance, they say they say the CES letter is stupid. It's unimportant. It doesn't matter. You shouldn't even consider it. And then I would say a huge percentage of Mormons under 30 have read it, right?
Yeah.
A huge percentage. And then they turn around and say, well, anybody who's stupid enough to read this letter deserves what they get.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, oh, who are you appealing to? What's like,
yeah.
And that's the other thing when you're making content like that is who is your audience?
Right.
Who are you speaking to? And it just they don't seem to have any idea who they're trying to talk to.
Well, and
I think they do. And it's Trump cultists. It's the same people who respond to the meanness of Donald Trump.
Right,
Well,
but
here's what
they're speaking to the choir, right?
I think that's right, though. I think they're not. It's like what the Mormon mission has become over time. The Mormon mission is no longer trying to get recruits. The Mormon mission is a radicalizing experience for those who go on it.
Exactly.
And that's what I think these guys are doing, is they're not trying to, they're not trying to stem the bleeding. They're not trying to recruit people who might have left or are thinking of leaving. They're trying to radicalize what's left.
That is probably, if there is a conscious understanding of what they're doing, which again is arguable.
Which there isn't.
That's probably it.
Yep.
So
all right.
Anyway, the days of the smiling Osmonds are gone, you guys. Replaced with a sneer.
Yep.
All right. Well, we'll sneer our way off then.
Bye.
Well, friends, that is it for this week's show.
Hey, we'd love to hear from you. Send us an email at howtoheretic.com.
Or if you're sending threatening Bowie knife pictures to people, leave us a voicemail about it, 903-88-HOW and 903-884-6986. Actually, don't go fuck yourself. I'm also on Twitter at HowToHeretic.
And as always, thanks to our patrons.
And thank you so much to our guardian angel, Cody Layton, for editing the show.
And thanks to all of you, friends, for tuning in.
Bye, friends.
Bye.
Cheerio.